Anna, we just got another recent question on any updates on the current situation with the high courts and will it affect the GFG opening?
It will not hold back the GFG opening. And the situation is I'm kind of a political prisoner at this point. The problem is not so much our government not wanting to get rid of me, but the problem of the Dutch government wanting to have a passport. And of course, I don't have a passport because my passport was stolen 2 days before Jim died. On August 30th, the passport went missing, and on September 1st, Jim died. And so it was just kind of a wham bam, thank you, ma'am situation where I was without a passport, and I reapplied for a passport. And then I was told by the passport agency that I owed them over $1.2 million in their dreams. So now they're trying to keep me in the country based on the idea that I owed them taxes when we just had the oral hearings and everybody agreed that no, we don't owe them taxes, never did and can't. And furthermore, we already have a final finding from the Vatican Chancery Court and the regional postmaster determining that no, whatever that other commercial organization is, it's not us and we don't owe it. So yeah, we've gone around and around about this, and they're just trying to keep me from the final testimony. It's a validation process, sort of like CAPTCHA. I'm not a robot, and here I am. Look me in the eye. But we are pursuing it. We are looking at other ways of getting diplomatic passports. We are looking at other ways in which I can do the process. We do have a delegation that did make it through. And, I'm just, okay, I'm the fiduciary and I know a lot of stuff and I have records and whatnot that can be brought to bear, but I'm not absolutely crucial. The crucial thing is that we have our delegation, we've got our people there. We have heirs to the property who can represent the claims of everyone. And so if they thought that they were going to stop the effort or stop us from claiming our inheritance simply by keeping me locked down here, well, they can keep me locked down all they like. We're still going to do it. And in fact, already have people there waiting for their turn to make their presentation. And they will be connected to me no matter what with a a Bluetooth headset. They'll be able to ask me any questions they have, and I'll be able to give them answers, and they can stand up before the court and do what has to be done, even if I'm not there. The other alternative is to allow me to do video conferencing or to move the proceedings to New York. And so they do have the facility to move to New York, and that is being discussed. They could just move the court itself to the UN headquarters in New York and borrow those facilities, and we could do the actual final validation process that could be done in New York instead of in at The Hague. So anyway, we are working on it. No matter what happens, we will get it done. We do have a crew of people besides me who are very important to the entire process, and they were able to make it through. So we have people that will bring the claim before the World Court. And right now, the U.S. Supreme Court is continuing to function on a volunteer basis because, like everybody else, they are not being paid. They are working as volunteers at this point because of the government shutdown. The government shutdown is a real big, bad concern for everybody, not just the government employees, but everyone, especially those who are impacted by the shut down in terms of not being able to get program benefits. And the most important one, of course, is the 40 million people that are on food stamps. And why we should have 40 million Americans who are desperately in need of food beggars the imagination anyway. If we were not all misidentified as British subjects and as municipal citizens of the Holy Roman Empire, then we wouldn't have that problem, because more of the funds that the Congresses waste would be going to our own people. But anyway, we do have that problem, and we do have 40 million Americans, many of them elderly or very young, that stand in the way of a grievous harm coming up this next month. You know, I hesitate to think what will happen if this situation is not arrested and stopped. We need to get our heads together and put an end to this, because what has happened with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats allowing this to go forward in this manner as a political leverage is a crime against humanity. That we should have anyone going hungry in this country just because of political vendettas is ridiculous. And so this is the moment, I do believe, when we will see action to remove those people who have thus far refused to do their public and humane duty, and who have created the problem. So buckle up, kids. I do believe that this is the final straw, and you will see action taken to make sure that there's no hunger in America. Now, these people that are doing all these horrible things are just mean, bad, nasty people. Anyone who could sit there in their padded chair in a nice plush office in Congress and condone 40 million Americans going hungry because they aren't getting their political sops is an evil person who does not deserve to represent anybody, and certainly does not represent the 40 million Americans that stand to go hungry. So now my take on it is that at some point there will be a come to Jesus meeting when these people who have acted in political self-interest, who have leveraged the well-being of the people they're supposed to serve by doing things like this, unnecessary things like this, they're going to come to justice. And it won't be long in coming. I also want to say that my knowledge, the information that I get, and the people I talk to, everybody is fed up with it. It doesn't matter whether it's from China, Japan, Russia, India, it doesn't matter. Wherever you go, whoever you talk to, we're all fed up with it. We're just, topped off, had enough of it. And so there's a big push coming back, not only to the Trump administration, but also to the Democrats in the Congress who are stonewalling progress on at least returning the essential people, those who process food stamps, those who expedite passports, those who actually have public service jobs that are related to health and safety. Having essential people back on the payroll is a big issue, and everybody is working toward that. But other than people just deciding that they're going to go into work and they're going to work as volunteers, there is no magic way to get the food stamps out to the people who need them. Now, there are people that are doing it. There are people who are volunteering and who are trying, But at a certain point, it becomes a matter of, well, we've got volunteers in North Carolina, but no volunteers in New York. We've got volunteers in South Dakota, but not in North Dakota. And then that means that some states would continue to have benefits and other states wouldn't. And it could, it could turn into a big free-for-all of people trying to cross state borders to get food that they can't get in their own state. And, we'd have all sorts of, additional kinds of problems that would erupt. So they just decided to uniformly say, well, no food stamps for November. Now, doesn't that strike you as something evil? That when we're supposed to be, thankful, we're supposed to be bringing in the harvest, we're supposed to be enjoying Thanksgiving. Instead, we've got 40 million hungry people. It's outrageous. It's an atrocity. It's an absolute insufferable situation that these political interests have sunk so low. But I don't think that they're going to stay in power much longer. I think that the day of reckoning has come and will come for these corporations that have wasted and abused and frittered away and siphoned off so much wealth and have used our young people as mercenaries while singing tunes to Yankee Doodle Dandy and feeding them a big fat lie about why they're going where they're going and doing what they're doing. So be ready. Don't be afraid, but take some rational steps to keep warm, to keep fed, and to do what you need to do to be able to survive for a week or 2 or 3 or 4. I really don't think that, from what I'm seeing, I don't think that the world and our military is going to put up with any more of this. So I think that when the end comes, in terms of putting an end to this whole mess, I think that it will come fast. And I certainly hope that it does, because otherwise we're looking at 4 months of starvation in the middle of winter in America. And I cannot imagine that the people and our military are going to put up with it.
All right, next person came up with a question of asking, once GFG is live, would you be able to use your AFD to purchase a PKTF radio?
Good question. I don't know the answer. I'd have to ask Joe and the IT staff at PKTF what the deal is. More questions? I just know that you have to have lots of questions out there.
I'm going through here. I have no new questions as of yet.
Okay,
As they come up, I keep asking.
Let me explain the situation with Cash App. They have a limit on the number of transactions. It's a very small number. It's like 10, okay? And they'll run through, say, 10 transactions, and then they'll shut down. And then they'll open up, say, 12 hours later, and they'll take another 10 transactions or, whatever. So it's a very inefficient and very frustrating thing. It's handy, but it's really inefficient and poorly managed. And the service as a whole, even though it's free, is just not, it's not up to snuff to be able to do anything like what we really need done. And that's why we have switched over to other services. And that's why we have the global family banks coming online, so that we no longer have to put up with this happy horse hooey. And we are looking forward very much to opening up the vendor lines, where you'll be able to buy and sell things among ourselves and among our vendors using our AFD and our prosperity account monies. Now we've got 4 former secretaries of the Treasury and none of them have any idea how to fix the problem, including our present Secretary, Scott Bessent. They are very, they have a restricted amount of information. They haven't really studied the problem in a way that's going to be productive. And so what we've done is we've developed a plan that will allow everything to stabilize. And I've explained in several different articles why there is no such thing as the national debt, and why all those national debts need to be cleared away, just dispensed with, together with any interest being paid on any national debts. There were never any national debts, and there shouldn't have been any interest paid on any national debts, because in fact, every single one of those dollars that were issued were immediately paid for in the form of goods and services, actual goods and services. And because there was no mechanism to withdraw these debt notes, they just kept being recirculated and paid and paid and paid and paid and paid. So the only thing that has been kept track of in terms of the national debt is how many dollars have been issued. But there's been nothing keeping track of how many times those debts were presented and how many times they were paid. And you can see how that happened. You know, here's my IOU for $10. Okay, so Joe presents his IOU for $10 and Fred gives him a hamburger, French fries, maybe throws in a Coke, right? Okay, well, so now Fred has the debt note, and he goes and he hands it to the guys that provide him with hamburger buns. Okay. All right, so he gets back hamburger buns, something real, something substantial, something that's a good, right? Okay. For the same IOU. And then the baker goes to the dentist and gives him the $10 note and gets the dental service that he needs. Right? And it just keeps going on and on and on like that. That one little note not only gets its face value paid back, but within 2 transactions, it starts accumulating more and more and more credit for all of the people who are exchanging goods and services. That's credit. That's our credit, right? So you've got this national debt of maybe, $50 trillion, right? But over here, you've got this national credit that's absolutely beyond humongous, because how many times do you think that you can pass one of those bills around before it becomes so decrepit that they have to take it out of circulation? 100 times? 200 times? 1,000 times? There are calculations made on this, by the way, sort of an average lifetime of how long certain different species of bill issues last, okay? So we can approximate this, but the bottom line is that for a relatively small upfront debt, they were collecting a huge, 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 huge amount of credit on the ledger. And the way that they were going to avoid paying back that credit on the ledger was, number one, by never referencing the national credit. See, all you've ever heard about in your entire life is the national debt, the national debt, the national debt. Here's the national debt clock. Here's this ticker tape like thing, in big, glowing digital letters, and the national debt is going zoom, 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 right? And so everybody's focused on the national debt. Nobody is focused on the national credit, which is growing even far faster and more exponentially than any kind of national debt. But, if we have any genius, we can observe, right? We can see what's going on. we know that if there's a national debt, there has to be at least an answering national credit. And as it turns out, built into the system was a means to siphon off hundreds of times off the same debt note. Hundreds of times the goods and services have been paid in for every debt note issued. And
All
that,
right, we got another question if you're ready for it, Anna.
yeah, sure. I just wanted to say
Do
that,
we
my
still
friends,
need to
is how
have
you
banking
analyze.
committees, and what are they supposed to be doing as a committee?
Well, banking committees are supposed to be organized and ready so that when they get money for their assembly, they are ready to keep track of it. Okay. You have the plan here is to open up the individual accounts first, take care of the people, make sure the people have spendable money and have credit that they can apply. But then secondarily, then we will be funding the activities of the assemblies, and somebody has to be on point in the assembly, the banking committee, to number one, receive the funds, number two, develop a budgetary structure and an allocation of how you're going to use the money.
Okay, next question. Why isn't your credential card being recognized as a passport for you and anyone else who needs it done? How do we get it to be recognized as a passport and valid ID for flight and planes?
Well, it is a valid ID, but it's not a passport in terms of the conventions that rule other countries. It's recognized here. It's not recognized in Amsterdam. And it's up to the Dutch government to recognize what it will. So that needs to be negotiated. I can get out of the country. I can get to the Amsterdam airport. I just can't get the 80 kilometers from the Amsterdam airport to The Hague. And it's entirely the fault of the Dutch government, not that I can't get out of the country on my credential card, because I certainly can. It's that once I get there, I'm stuck. There's no point in traveling, 5,000 miles to wind up looking at the chairs in the Amsterdam airport.
All right, the next one is about the Postal Treaty of 2010. One is it still valid? If not, can we amend it?
I just
Does
said it was
municipal bankruptcy have any effect upon the treaty?
number one, it's good up for 100 years. Number two, amendments are theoretical. It's hard to imagine that there would be any real need for amendments. The municipal bankruptcy should have very little effect on the post office, which is a separate entity. It's the Universal Postal Union now runs the postal service. And so it's not under the same constraints as the municipal government here. This is just our municipal government going bankrupt. And we still do have all of our other post offices. We still have USPS. We still have the American post office, so we'll still have postal service. It may not be as fast. There may not be as many people employed by the postal service for sure, but you'll still have postal services.
Okay, the next question is, will what you're doing right now with taxes in the World Court affect the de facto courts and how they're addressing us?
Well, it's going to destroy one whole section of the court system. It's going to take out the district courts that have been basically mismanaged and inappropriately administered. This is a misadministration of justice issue. Those carpetbagger courts should be closed down, and the quote unquote judicial districts supporting them should be closed down. And that's what I expect to happen because they're operating in a criminal fashion now.
Okay, the next question is, will the GFG release by 10/31 the money can help support those on food stamps?
I don't know if it's going to make it by 10/31, but I do know that it will make it in time to help those who have problems as a result of the food stamps. The other thing is that lots of different organizations are stepping up. A lot of churches are opening their food banks. A lot of community organizations are making food available. We have significant large warehouses of food that have been staged in advance for just such an eventuality. And those warehouses are at a point of being able to begin distributing food. I somehow have the sense that number one, this won't be allowed to go on for very long. And number two, that at least this group has got the resources where there's no reason why any of us should go hungry, nor is there any reason that our friends and family and our communities should go hungry, because there should be enough resources so that if we have to go through 4 months of no food stamps throughout the entire clearing out of the bankruptcy, we should still be able to get through it.
Okay, and multiple questions about when will GFG go live? Will it be this year?
It will be this year. Well, think about it. It has to be this year.
Is the Donald running around the world trying to find a place to hide after the guilty verdict? Where do you think he will land for protection?
Which guilty verdict? which guilty verdict?
I believe they're referring to Donald Trump.
Well, I know they're talking about Donald Trump, but he's been convicted of several things so far. So, which one of the guilty verdicts is he supposedly running away from, and how far? The information I have is that Donald Trump isn't with us any longer, and that all we're seeing are body doubles, essentially skilled actors who are playing the part of Donald Trump. And I have to say that I've been watching a lot of the news replays and things, and every time that I think I'm seeing the real Trump, it turns out to be an old newscast or an old piece of video from a long time ago. You'll notice that if you watch carefully, you'll notice that a lot of the the mainstream media, major outlets have a habit of replaying old tapes and old photos when they're doing supposedly new broadcasts. And I think that this has been kind of played on us. Now, whether the information is correct or not, whether the Donald is still with us or not, I don't know for sure. But I have not seen a current broadcast where we were looking at the actual Donald Trump in a long time. Probably since 2021. Honestly.
Okay, somebody was wondering if they can sign up for the LRO through Global Network and Bank and use their services for recording instead of their county LRO.
You can you can do your correction of your political status anywhere among any of the services. You can go to the state LRO. You can go to the GFG and get your bank account at the same time. You can go to Bucolic Living Law on the internet, although that is more geared toward farmers and landowners who are intent on retrieving their land patents, in a pinch, you can also do your declaration there. So there are multiple places that are more or less automated in the system where you can do your declaration by uploading your declaration paperwork and your witnesses. And the LROs in all of the states should be open. We should have recording secretaries active in all of the states. And if by chance you're not having any luck locating a recorder in your state, we do have international recording secretaries who can help you. So multiple ways for you to record your political declaration. And I think that we're going to need a lot more. We're going to need more people who are trained as recorders. We're going to need more people that have basic computer skills who can help those who don't. We did have an unfortunate incident this past week where we caught someone who was charging elderly people $1,500 a piece to upload 3 pieces of paper. And you know, there have been some truly shameful incidents of that kind. And the punishment for this is to lose their access to global financial support and to lose access to their accounts. So it's a rather large loss for the sake of bilking someone. But we have made the commitment that we're done with evil, and we are here in support of life and abundance and peace and security and happiness, and we don't want any more evil in our lives or anyone else's. And so when we see someone who's willing to profiteer and opportunistically, you know, charge someone for something that they were given for free, and to overcharge them to such a gross extent, frankly, that tells us that that person who could do such a thing does not deserve to be standing among us. They have demonstrated that they do not have a mindset that is done with evil. They are continuing to promote that and to bring it with them, and they don't belong and they don't deserve to be here with the rest of us who are turning our attention to peaceful and kind resolution of differences.
Okay, we got another one about the postal treaty. Someone asking, can we use the postal treaty to stop court cases today and how?
Well, no, the postal treaty is just saving. What the postal treaty did was to save our postal office. Our post office in Philadelphia was in danger of closing, and our seat of government was in danger of closing. So that's the importance of the postal treaty. It's not for stopping court cases.
Okay, the next question is, has David Keith Quigley ever reached out to you? He says he is the real John Kennedy Jr. in protection since age 9. Has he ever reached out to you, and do you know anything about it?
I know that there is a man who claims that he was actually JFK's son and little, John, and that he was removed in a federal witness protection program when he was just in grade school, and his identity has been hidden ever since. Now, I have no idea if this is, it's plausible. Things like this have happened in our history. Certainly, the Federation officers and their families have suffered this kind of thing before. It frankly would not surprise me. But no, he has not reached out to me. And at this point, I wouldn't have the resources right now to be able to give him the sort of support that he would need. But anyway, it's certainly an interesting claim, and I'm sure that it will get addressed, along with a great many other claims that are going to be coming forward as we go forward.
Okay, the next question involves the med beds. They were wondering if you have any information on the release of med beds to the public.
Well, I do know that there is a list circulating and that a certain general has that list of where all of the med beds have been deployed throughout the 50 states. Where they are in other parts of the world, I have not heard a word whether there's a similar list being compiled for each country. I have not heard whether or not the medbed technology has been thoroughly distributed in, say, Europe. I don't know the timing on that. I just know that they had a large number of med beds already produced, that there are 3 different kinds of programs that, and you know, there's equipment unique to each step. One is a diagnostic step where you learn everything that is weird about your own DNA and what kinds of bacteria and parasites and whatnot that are in your body and what kinds of ailments you may have. And then the next step is a treatment and restoration protocol that, you know, kind of brings everything back into alignment and functioning properly again, which is simply, you know, optimizing health as is. And then there is another specialized protocol that does things like regrow limbs, stimulates the regrowth of amputated limbs, and also a program that can essentially youthen you by up to 30 years. So this is a restorative therapy. So there are, when you say med beds, okay, it's not just a single technology or a single piece of equipment. There are actually multiple pieces of equipment and multiple protocols and therapies that are all attached to that one very broad spectrum of technology that we're all just calling the medbed. And so those different parts and pieces have to be delivered. They have to be set up, and what's even more important, people have to be trained to be able to correctly use these new technologies on actual patients. And so it's not so much that the med beds haven't been available and haven't been, you know, the technology's been there. It's training all the people that need to be trained to use these things correctly that is the hard part. However, we are getting more and more people trained, and you know, I think everybody's had this expectation that, you know, at one point it was going to be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, the beds have arrived, and you know, we're all just going to wander down to the local hospital and pop in one of these beds for a few minutes, and it's all going to be great, you know. Well, actually, you know, real life is a lot more complicated, and there is a protocol for who gets preference. You know, if you have you have a leg amputated below the left knee and you have psoriasis and you're dealing with liver failure, okay? If someone with the same exact symptoms and the same exact progression of the disease and everything as you happens to be a veteran and their leg is missing because of their service in the Army, they're going to get preference. And so there are factors. Somebody who is in decidedly worse shape, closer to death as a result of their maladies, they're going to get preference. And that's the way it should be. I mean, I think we all recognize that there are truly urgent cases, and then there are urgent cases, and then there are, well, they're serious, all right, and we got to get to it cases, and then there are, well, gee, I'd like to look 30 years younger, but it's really not that important.
Okay, the next question involves the GFG again, not a shock. Okay, one of our people who is is a vendor with GFG is asking when it opens up, how will he pay his vendors for products he's going to sell to the ASNs when the people he's trying to pay may or may not take the Federation money, AFD.
Well, if they won't take gold, I think I would look for new vendors myself. But anyway, it's going to differ. And we will have a range of different currencies available. It's not going to be just AFD. And remember, we do have our prosperity accounts, and those prosperity accounts can be denominated however. So, if you need euros, good, there you go, prosperity accounts. You need Federal Reserve notes, fine, there you go. We're going to spend them down. Every dollar that we spend in our prosperity accounts reduces the world debt. It takes another exact amount of Federal Reserve notes out of the system. And they stopped creating that gigantic credit imbalance. So as you are spending your prosperity funds, your prepaid credit, at the same time, you are Xing out, you're canceling that much of the debt. So it won't take long, even if we don't do a unilateral wipeout of the national debts, it will not take that long for the prosperity accounts to wipe out the national debts and then just keep on taking more of the fiat currency out of the market. As we take more of the fiat currency out of the market, we're adding value back in because we're not only canceling debt, at a certain point, it starts going the other direction, and we're actually adding value back into the fiat currency so that we don't have to go through a nasty situation where the Federal Reserve note is worthless.
Okay, another question about banking. Is it true the Universal Postal Service is the first financial banking system?
Yes, it was. Because along with the Postal Service, you see, there was a need to be able to transfer money. Someone in Milan dies and his heirs live in Florence. Okay. So somebody has to be able to move the property, the inheritance, between Milan and Florence. Who's it going to be? It's going to be the Postal Service that the church has established. And so, yes, very early on, the church got involved in transporting money as part of the Postal Service. And the Templars then kind of expanded upon that idea. And they realized that if they had caches of money stored up at different points along a route, a trade route or a pilgrimage route, say, all these pilgrims that were going to the Holy Land, right? Okay, well, then they had these way stations set up, sort of like post offices or Pony Express offices back in the day. And you could take your money in to an office in Hamburg, right? And give them your gold and get a receipt for it. And then go on your pilgrimage. And when you got to Jerusalem or some other stipulated place along the way where you needed to take some of your money out or all of it, you would give them your receipt and the Templars would give you back that amount of gold. So this is one of the earliest forms of banking as we know it in the West, was practiced by the post offices in terms of transporting money and valuable objects and delivering them faithfully to the intended recipients. And then it later kind of morphed into this business of being able to conveniently and safely transfer credit over distances. Because we had so much, there were so many robber barons and there were so many brigands that would lay in wait for tourists or for pilgrims or for just bureaucrats or members of the church or anybody that was traveling on these roads, that it actually helped to defray the danger of being robbed and murdered, because nobody was carrying any money anymore, right? You could go on this long trip and prepay your room and board at these way stations and have access to your own gold, essentially, by presenting your little receipt. And the receipt was a lot easier to carry and a lot easier to conceal than a sack of gold coins. So that's how the Postal Service kind of morphed into a banking service. And that's why.
Okay, next we have someone from North Carolina that has been told because they hold a nursing license, they cannot serve as a recorder. Is this true?
No. No, they can serve as a recorder.
Okie dokie. Let's see here. On the next question. They're coming fast. Will Tennessee have a bank you can walk into?
Yes, it will have its own state bank. It will have its own state post office. Actually, all of the states will have multiple locations, but they'll have prosperity centers. We're calling them prosperity centers because it will allow you to, have a brick and mortar facility where you can actually go in and talk to live people, and it will give you a wide range of different services all under one roof. And you'll be able to track your prosperity account, which is a form of, a commercial script, at the same time that you track your AFD and all of that. So sort of one-stop shopping. You'll be able to, if you want to buy a house, you'll be able to do that transaction at the prosperity centers.
Next question. After answering about the Universal Postal Service being the first financial banking system, are there actually accounts with them, like bank accounts?
Well, yeah, there are certain administrative accounts that go into providing the postal service. But that's more the internal costs of the service than it is a bank per se. Of course, you can still buy a postal order, a money order, and a postal money order still spends as cash. It's still backed by precious metals, or it was the last time I looked at it. And what it does is it functions as a commercial script. Just like a Federal Reserve note is not money. The definition of money is something that has intrinsic value in and of itself. So gold has intrinsic value because it's a valuable metal. It can be used for numerous purposes, and silver the same way. But paper, of course, does not have intrinsic value in and of itself. It has representational value, like a coupon or a receipt or a certificate that allows you to go and pick up a certain amount of gold or silver. So it's a different thing, right? You got the commercial system and you've got the commercial paper, right? And then you have the money system, which is actual asset-based, something solid that you can hold in your hand and which has value in and of itself. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was still tracking on the difference involved, because you've got two complete separate banking systems.
Okay, the next question is, when will the new paymaster for the military take over? We might end up missing our paycheck November 1st.
Well, unfortunately, unless people really get a move on here, I think it's going to be unavoidable that you miss your first November paycheck. I guess the silver lining in the middle of that cloud is that, yeah, you are getting a new paymaster, and when you get the new paymaster, you'll also get a pay raise. Because in actual fact, our military members have gotten nothing but cost of living increases since 1964, which makes them some of the most ill-paid military members, or service members, I should say, in the entire world, despite America being such a rich country, right? If we're so rich, why do we have 40 million people that are standing to go hungry? You see the point. We have been mistaken for others. We have been misrepresented as foreign citizens on our own soil. And the people who are supposed to be representing us and our interests aren't. So, unfortunately, the military will probably have to go without a paycheck or two before this gets resolved.
Okay, here's a question about GFG again. If it is on track for October, Turkey Day, or by end of the year, what is the delay and what can we do to help facilitate this?
Well, the worst problems that have been are just making sure that all the interfaces work and all of the user pages are foolproof as much as possible. Because, we don't want a million people misunderstanding a direction and pushing the wrong button and then have to correct a million mistakes. And that sort of thing is entirely possible when you've got a structure that large and that has that many functions. So basically, it's been the coding, the algorithms, the software side of things that has been so challenging, especially since it's never been done before. It's not like we have anything to guide us or provide a temporary solution or anything like that. It all has to be built by hand. And so that has been the big problem. And unfortunately, there's nothing any of us can do except sit here as patiently as we can and wait for the geeks among us to slog their way through and produce that end result that should be a very efficient, very simple, and easy to understand interface with the bank system that can be accessed from a computer or from a phone, either one, and which will allow you a great deal of facility in conducting your business and paying your bills. But we have to get that perfected, and that's what's been taking so long. I did see a prototype, not a prototype, I guess you would say a Generation L or something like that, version of the dashboard. And it's very impressive and very easy to understand. So I felt very good about that, and I can see why, just like our own process, it's been simplified and made more efficient over time, so that you now have a dashboard that will enable you to order your own medical cards, your own gift system card, your own status correction, your credential card, all those sorts of things. You'll be able to order directly, and you'll be able to transfer money between AFD and your credit account for prepaid credit. You'll be able to do all these things back and forth from the comfort of your chair or from your phone. It will be a whole new world. But there will be brick and mortar banks, or prosperity centers, as we call them, opening up in every state of the union, so that you'll be able to go talk to somebody and you'll be able to actually have a more traditional banking experience than just having to rely upon a computer online bank.
Okay, the next question is someone wanting a clear understanding, because if we rescind the U.S. citizenship altogether, then we can't operate in two capacities. How does that work?
Remember that your name and the name of the British seaman who is missing, presumed dead, are exactly the same. No difference. Your lawful person who's an American and your legal person who's a Brit have exactly the same name. That's how they've been able to preserve this fraud scheme and keep it going so long. Okay, so no, you have everything that you ever had. As I like to say, I accept all gifts and I waive all benefits. So um, your ability to function in that system changes subtly because now you're operating on the land instead of the sea. You come under a different form of law. You come under the law of the land instead of the law of the sea. And yet it's the same exact name. It's only changed by your expatriation from foreign citizenship obligations.
Okay, another question about the Postal Service again. Are there private boxes? Are there still private post boxes for status corrected people to use?
Well, in most cases, post office boxes are just boxes. Even if you have a box in an actual postal facility, it's just a separate box. It's a matter more of how you address that box and how you form your address. You'll notice that I always say in care of box 520994, right? And that's because I don't live in the postal box. I'm not a piece of paper. I can't be folded up and put in this little box. I don't reside there in that box, okay? And so that's why it's an in care of address. And that's why living people should use the in care of function so that they can receive their mail and still not be part of the system, not have that presumption that you're receiving mail for any British person. You have a quite legitimate right to use your American person of the same name, but use it on the land jurisdiction. And you can use a post office box in the same way by restricting the presumptions attached to it. You can use it as a lawful post office box just as easily as you can use it as a legal post office box, so long as you pay attention and actually take the time to declare the fact that you are using a post office box, but it's an in care of function.
Okay, the next question is, outside of donations, is there anything they can do to be of help? And that they can do for you particularly to help you?
Well, like I say, the good wishes and goodwill of a lot of people often establishes miracles. So if everybody gets together and wishes me goodwill and good luck and, health and all the things that are needed, then that will happen. And so I say that from experience, and so I invite you all to think of me getting my house back plus damages. Think of me getting to wherever it finally turns out being that I have to go to do this presentation for the court. Think of everything getting resolved swiftly and happily, and all of us going forward together with glad hearts and being able to help our friends and family members and being secured and safe and beyond the clutches of the evil ones. And, just keep that really good, positive mindset in your mind and your heart so that this is what you are consciously and unconsciously producing in reality. Because what you think, you feel, and what you think feel is what materializes. And you can't fool Mother Nature, you know. You can't force yourself to think positive and yet not believe it in your heart and expect it to turn out in reality, because the broadcast will be wrong. It's sort of like radio stations. You're tuned into the classical radio station, and your son is sitting there tuned into the rock and roll station, and your daughter is listening to some sort of bebop rock over in the corner, and someone else is listening to country, and you're all tuned into your different radio stations. Well, tune into the success vibe, tune into the success feeling. Imagine all of the injustice that has been promulgated by charging people for taxes and mortgages they didn't owe. And imagine all of that being just swept away and reversed. And suddenly you're getting your money back, and you're getting your property back, and you're getting your life back, and your freedom back, and you're getting the protection of your constitutions back. You're getting honest courts back. Focus on that outcome. Believe that outcome. And it will happen, and it will happen faster. And I know you're going to look at me, you're going to say, that woman's crazy. What does she mean? Does she really think that mind over matter works? Actually, I think mind is what creates matter. And I'm not alone in that opinion, because there are a lot of quantum physicists who have proven it.
That and she's crazy.
Anyway, think that in your mind, feel it in your heart, and project it out as your own little broadcast station, and see what happens. You'll be amazed.
Okay, the next question is, what purpose does a GFG medical card for healthcare related payments serve when we have plenty of credit and AFD to pay such expenses?
It separates out the medical expenses from all your other expenses and keeps track of it. So you know exactly how much you spent this year on dental care. You know exactly how much you spent for, tests. You know exactly how much you spent at this facility or with that doctor. And that's handy to know. It helps you to get a good, grounded, actual picture of where you're spending money and what you're spending it on. So really there is no difference in terms of the monies that are available or the forms of payment that are available, but it does give you a way to track medical care.
Okay, next, if an individual is adopted and name is changed, they are now showing 2 birth certificates and possibly 2 separate social security numbers. Will the system see this as one?
Well, the best advice is to use the most recent rendition and to make the effort to explain this. When you record those sorts of things, make the effort to explain it. Because ultimately we have to be able to track you down to a specific birth event. Say if you were born in Baltimore in 1959, but you were adopted and moved to Nebraska at 1960. I mean, you were a very small child. You don't even remember it happening. But you grew up in Nebraska, right? If we have to be able to track back to Baltimore and say, yeah, they were born in Maryland. They're American. But otherwise, we don't need to know that. Otherwise, we can go from the most recent filings.
Okay, someone else. I remember hearing the Federation, or was it the GFG, was open to considering humanitarian projects. Is that still the case, or are we to use our prosperity cards for that?
Humanitarian projects like, buying a house or something of that nature, really big expenditures, have to be arranged for as a separate item, you have a project account, you have a mortgage account, which isn't a mortgage account, it's a house payment that is lump sum, and there are some aspects to it, you have to consider when you're buying a house. And the role of the Prosperity Center will be to help you make good decisions and to properly evaluate the status of the dwelling that you're looking at, help you with things like going through it and making sure that the foundation is what it should be. And if it's not, making provision for rebuilding the foundation, things of that nature. But that's all part of like a real estate, or I shouldn't call it real estate, a property investment fund. Okay. So you'll have a property investment fund for being able to buy your home. You'll have if you're interested in actually developing a project, then you'll have a project development fund that you'll have to deal with and, take responsible care of. Everybody will have investment money because you'll have more money than you could ever use responsibly. So then you get to invest. So some of you will invest in projects and some of you will build and design projects. But, it's all part of one big community endeavor, whether you're a backer or you're a creative that is creating these new products and facilities.
Okay, another person. I've created my GFG account and uploaded all my status correction documents to the GFG site for recording and publishing, and it is still showing as pending status for them to review. Just wondering, when the GFG monies become available, will I still have to wait for someone to review and approve my documents?
Well, I know that they're very busy right now getting ready to do something with the whole system. I know that they are beginning the process of populating accounts with the prosperity funds, the prepaid credit. So you may have just hit a little dead space where they're not able to keep up with new accounts at the same time they're doing that. And that's what I would suspect. But it should be, it should be taken care of in a couple, 2-3 days.
Okay, apparently in California, ID fraud is massive. How can we make sure we have real documents and real names?
Well, we do have our own real ID, And it's pretty hard to fake a thumbprint. But quite apart from that, we do have some good checking capability in terms of being able to track down whether birth certificates are authentic or not, and that sort of thing, which is available in the bank. So if you submit a phony birth certificate, they can scan that just like they scan a bond or a bill to see if it's authentic.
Okay, next is actually a clarification on an earlier question about humanitarian projects. They are referring to projects like opening a youth home for orphans turning 18 but still in high school or in need of vocational education, something along those lines.
Sure, we've got projects already lined up for prisoner rehabilitation, halfway houses, continuing education, just a wide variety of things which are good for communities and good for people that will be funded. And, it's the goodwill effort, it's the good faith that is paramount. And the people doing these projects are hopefully all motivated for the right reasons. That's all I've got to say. I would hate for someone to lose their account with Global. And that won't happen as long as everybody is trying their best. I mean, you can fail, you're allowed to fail, but anyone who thinks they're going to scam and kind of fail their way to success or, steal from this system, this whole system is not, it's very different than anything that you have ever experienced. This is a brand new world that has been created. And once you enter it, you won't want to go back. And you won't want to lose that, because it will be more than money. It will be community. It will be friendship. It will be it'll be life the way life was meant to be. Okay, so just remember that you are entering a different space, a different world. It's not dog eat dog. It's not based on lies. It's not cutthroat or competitive. It's just doing the right thing for the right reasons. Okay, because like I said, when we say we're done with evil, we mean that, and we mean that as a way of life. We're just flat out done with dealing with liars and cheats and egotistical little maniacs and people that want to create murder and mayhem. We're done with them. We won't tolerate having them around us. If somebody wants to spend their life telling lies and cheating and defrauding and all of that, they can just go back to their little snake pit and slither around with others like them. But we're not going to have them as part of our world, and we're not going to have them as part of our banking system. So if we see proof of people doing evil and trying to benefit themselves at everybody else's expense, and things of that nature, we will close them out. We will close their accounts, and they'll be looking at a locked door. And that's just the way it is. So as you're entering this new world, and you are beginning to experience all of the wonderful benefits of it, don't be stupid. Don't allow the indoctrination of a lifetime that tells you that you have to win. You have to claw your way up the ladder. You have to step on other people. You have to criticize other people. You have to, make somebody else into the bad guy. You have to lie, cheat, steal, and look out for number one. All of that kind of stuff needs to go by the wayside. It just needs to be part of your past in a big way. It's rear view mirror thinking. It's rear view mirror ideas, assumptions, and actions. And you don't need to be part of that anymore. As I had to tell a man today, we're coming out of Babylon, and we're not going to just turn around and go right back in. Okay, we're not into the revolving door syndrome. We're going out, and we're staying out. We're done with evil. And so come on along, join the party. We're all headed that way. But leave the evil stuff behind, because it can cost you. And it is never worth it.
Okay, next is a question. If I was foreclosed on 10 years ago and evicted a year ago, is there any way to get my property back with the indemnity bond or any other way, or is it too late for me? As well as, will we be able to pay off current mortgages as soon as we have access to our GFG accounts?
Yes, you'll be able to pay off your mortgages, assuming they're not more than you already have in your account. You will be able to go back 10 years, even if you were evicted 10 years ago or 20 years ago. If you were evicted under circumstances related to fraud, you can go back and press your case. A lot of these things are difficult to resolve because someone else has since moved into your house and invested in it and whatnot. But the burden for that shouldn't be you. The burden for that should be the organizations that promoted this. So those organizations that promoted it will be bankrupted. I'm in the process of bankrupting the organizations that promoted my eviction. I fully intend to prosecute. I'm going to lien them. I'm going to enforce it. And it's too bad they have this idea about, the innocent buyer. Well, I'm the innocent victim. I'm the one that built the place and owned it and fair and square, and was cheated out of it by a bunch of thugs that were using law as a form of warfare. And so I don't have any mercy when it comes to that. You know, it should never have been stolen in the first place.
Okay, the next question is, with the GFG funds, can our project we want to create be profitable, or should everything we do be free to the people?
Well, you can have, you can make a profit on things, you know. You don't have to do things for free. You do have to be reasonable. You have to be fair in pricing things, and you know, the only two laws that matter are the law of gratitude and the law of love. So if you're not gouging people, you're not being unfair to people, you can go ahead and charge for your services or the cost of whatever you're doing. It's not like you can't make a profit at doing something. But I have to remind you that in the world you're entering, you're going to have money. You're not going to want for anything. So, you know, it becomes a lot less important to turn a profit and a lot more important to make people happy and healthy.
Okay, next is a question. Is there a dollar figure needed for travel for your current issue?
I am trying to raise about $7,000 to pay for the expenses of people that are part of our team. Not for me, because I don't know what my I don't know what my expenses are going to be yet. But we do have people that are there already. We have people that are on their way. And so they're having to shell out of their pockets. And I would like to be able to support them, because push comes to shove, they will make the presentation for me.
Okay, the next question is, can you speak to the number of lawsuits filed against the British government, the Roman Empire, and any other governments that have wronged us?
Actually, lawsuits are not really the thing. People have over the years gotten to the point where they just stomped them into the dirt. Usually when their activities have caught up to them and the outrages of what they've done become apparent, the Visigoths rise up in rage and they sack Rome. Okay. The Normans come across the English Channel and flatten Britain and you know, take names and numbers. Usually that's what happens. We don't, human beings, and you know, we don't usually conduct lawsuits for the kinds of outrages that they have pulled. I really don't know how many lawsuits have been filed against the government of Britain or the government of the Vatican or the government of Rome. I suppose that all of the commercial claims are each individually a form of lawsuit. So those could be counted into the tens of millions. But that's not really what you mean by a lawsuit. And actually, one of the problems that we have in this world is that international law is hard to enforce, because you've got 193 nations in the United Nations, and they're the only ones that accept compulsory obedience to the decisions of the court. And I think it was 1984 or 1986, the US British territorial government said, no, we're not going to agree to compulsory compliance anymore. So they are under no obligation to obey the court. They should be, at least reasonably, for things like murder and mayhem, but they withdrew from the ICJ. What's important about the findings of the ICJ is that 193 nations still are members of the organization, and they still have taken the pledge. So it's all those other countries that are committed to enforcing that give it the power that it has. But the ICJ itself does not, for example, have a small army that can go out and enforce its decisions. They have to rely upon the member nations to take it upon themselves to provide the enforcement. Which is essentially, that's the same position, by the way, that the ITCSS is in. Kevin Annette's organization, the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State. They have had to garner the support of individual countries that have agreed to enforce the findings of the tribunal.
Okay, we've got the next question is, how will these liens you are putting against people be collected?
Well, we're using a commercial process, and we will have our own people in place in order to collect on these liens. Now, of course, a lot of them are going bankrupt. So you can't get blood out of a turnip, as the saying goes. But we will have the satisfaction of basically holding them accountable for their actions, even if we cannot actually extract them from their homes or extract them from their bank accounts. Those liens will remain, and they will be proof that they were not, I guess you could say it will haunt their reputation. Whether or not we ever get money out of them is another case, but as I say, millions of these things are going bankrupt. These corporations are going bankrupt right and left because they were franchises of parent corporations that are going bankrupt. And when you see these layoffs, you just won't believe it. I mean, by the time all the federal layoffs hit, and then all the collateral layoffs that are the result of the federal workers being unemployed, it will stagger your imagination how devastating that job loss really is to the economy. And of course, Mr. Trump will be blamed for it, but it isn't his fault. This was put in motion by Pope Francis in 2013. It was actually filed and done during the Obama administration. It just takes a while for the whole thing to be processed and to roll out and have its effect. So as this is going forward, please keep in mind that the bankruptcy of the United States Incorporated is a real big deal, and it's going to have huge effects, at least short term, on the employment market, on agriculture, on travel, on all the things that you take for granted. You're going to be seeing a situation like the Great Depression or worse, unless the military gets its thumbs out of its butt and decides that we've all had enough. At which point, some of these yahoos will get arrested for crimes against humanity, and many of them deserve it for things above and beyond making 40 million people go hungry. But anyway, we'll see what happens. My best advice to everybody is to keep your Shinola sensors on high. Look for our bank to open. Go out and get as much stuff as you can in terms of being prepared for up to 4 months, realistically. It'll kind of, if nothing is done, it'll slowly kind of, because as the federal workers no longer have paychecks and they're not able to pay their bills, they're not able to spend anything into the economy, they're scrambling for other work, right? They're taking their expertise with them. And then there's all sorts of collateral damage because each one of those federal jobs supports up to 3.4 other jobs in addition. And then all those families and all those individuals get hit. So it's kind of like a slow motion domino effect that just kind of goes. And it's very ugly once it gets started. And the best thing we can do is get our new economic system rolled out and get support under people and start moving on these beneficial projects and employing people in pursuit of better things and better lives. That's what we need to do, and we need to do as fast as we can. But in the meantime, I'm stuck here as a political prisoner of the yahoos, and the people that I'm talking to, the secretaries of the Treasury, don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they've done. And so if you're looking for any kind of appropriate response from them, it's like looking at the family dog. And, he's going to look at you with all the best interest and all the best will in the wide world. He's going to sit there and go, oh, yeah, let's go for a walk, master. I'm sorry to tell you, but a lot of the people in Treasury have never really thought about what was happening or what they were doing or how this was working. So they have no answers. And if the answers are going to come, it has to be from people like me who have thought about it and who do know how it works and who can bring it into balance. So hope and pray that we get through this last little obstacle that the rats have placed in our way. And if not, support our people at The Hague, support our people in New York, support our people who are standing by with the material and the will to overcome this, right?
Okay, the next question is, once the GFG money clears, will we be able to buy property through Zillow and other such places?
Why not?
And another question is, do you have an article on the current US government bankruptcy?
Well, I believe if you just go to AnnavonRights.com, you'll be able to look at different articles about that topic just using the search engine, going all the way back to when it was actually getting set up and actually happening. There'll be articles there back in 2015 or 2016 or whatever. There'll be articles and references going back at least 10 years, 12 years, that are referencing the whole situation.
Okay, next question, which is kind of a funny one. Why can't you direct the military queen of America? Just kidding. But as the widow of hereditary head of state and now the mother of the hereditary head of state, we the people are the bosses. Why can't we just demand it?
Because you've got a lot of military people that are just as confused as everybody else, and they need time to grok it and understand it and agree with it, just like everybody else. I mean, we were not taught this history. None of us were taught. And so they have to go research it for themselves. They have to confirm every fact that I spew. And they have to feel comfortable and secure in walking forward, because for them, if they do the wrong thing, they can face some really severe trauma as a result. I mean, they can be killed for treason. And so they want to be certain that they're doing the right thing, and you can't blame them for that. And I've often said that it takes time to take all this information in. I mean, even if it's coming through to you clear as a bell, and we now have the facts, the figures, the times, the dates, we have all the information. It still takes time to internalize that. So I spend a lot of time working with members of the military to make sure that they knew their history. And once they know their history, then they know actually and factually who the people are that they're supposed to be serving, and they know for a fact that the government that they are working for isn't really the government. It's two corporations that are in the business of providing government services, which is not the government. Okay, so all this stuff is hard for people to take in, and but I do believe that the military is becoming highly motivated to find answers and to find solutions to the problems that we've suffered here. And they are certainly experiencing the suffering themselves, because as of November 1st, they won't be getting paid either.
Next question. Would we have to transfer our AFD credits into FRNs to make purchases through Zillow and such, and would we have that ability?
My understanding is, now I have not used this system yet myself, but my understanding is that whatever the vendor sets as their choice, what they want to be paid in, is how it works. And it's all calculated automatically. You don't have to sit there with your little pad and pencil and do the conversion math and all of that yourself. You walk into a place where the vendor wants to be paid in FRNs, fine. The QR code that you give them will reflect to their QR code, and their QR code will say, wants payment in Federal Reserve notes. So that's what your interface will send them, is Federal Reserve notes. If you walk in and the interface says, oh, vendor wants to be paid in gold, okay? So the payment is issued in gold and transferred to the vendor. And you don't have to do the math. It's all set up in advance to track the daily fluctuations in value. Now, one thing you're going to have to get used to is that there are daily fluctuations in value, especially of the AFD, because the price of gold goes up and down. So, you're just going to have to learn how to accept that and deal with that reality.
Besides being amazed, I honestly don't have any more questions coming through right now, and we are past the 2-hour mark. How much longer do you want to go?
Well, I think my voice is giving out. I don't know if you can tell it, but if I can feel it.
Oh, I can tell.
So,
all right, everybody. I guess we'll same bat time, same bat channel next week. As you see, my email is posted right there. If you want to email me questions in advance, I'll start off with those, and as more questions come in, I'll ask Anna herself. So have fun, everybody. Good night, rest well, and dream of the impossible.
take care, everybody. Be safe, be well, and think of wonderful things to come, and keep focused on the good. Good night.